Jamie, forced labor, it's out there, it happens. And it can be really bad news for an importer.
Yes.
For a couple of reasons I know you're going to cover.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What can you talk about? How's it being enforced these days?
Yeah, so I think the key thing is to note that it is, like you said, it's out there. It's unfortunate that it's out there. It's a terrible tragedy that's occurring around the world where individuals are being put into situations and environments that are, deadly in many situations, and in other situations just so controlling. So it's a human rights issue that really needs to be addressed, and it's part of a company's corporate responsibility. You don't want to be seen as doing business with someone that is, leveraging that kind of, human violation in your overall process. And consumers are expecting you to do better, right? Someone that's buying your product wants to make sure that what they're buying was produced in the most ethical way. So the Forced Labor Protection Act, the UFLPA, was put in place to help put controls around that situation and to make companies, or really almost force companies, to look at their supply chain and make sure they're doing it right. We were seeing a lot of detentions. That was a major focus, really even during kind of the later part of the Biden administration, where that was a real focus, where they were really putting that into play. I would say with the Trump administration, not that it's been on the back burner, it's just that the tariffs are so in our face every single day that I think the UFLPA is kind of backed off a little bit, but I would anticipate that's something that's going to be revisited. Once this, kerfuffle with the tariff is kind of calmed down a little bit.
Kleenex for that?
Yeah, exactly. We're probably going to see this kind of ratchet its way back around. And so, the responsibility to stay on top of that is going to be more and more intense over the
What
next
should
years.
an importer be doing like right now then?
Right now, this, again, this is a situation that we've kind of visited earlier on several other trade buzz topics around things like, trying to collect documentation for your USMCA or for other activities you're doing. The same thing applies here. Making sure that your contracts with your suppliers have an allowance to capture these kind of details. That becomes really a critical component of being able to go back and see who am I doing business with and who are my suppliers doing business with. That's the level that they're going down to the point of, they want to know where in silicon products, they want to know where where that silica was mined from. Yeah. They want to know where the field that the tomatoes were grown in, right? So that level of reasonable care is intense. So I would say that's one of the key things, making sure your contracts are available, putting a program in place internally where your procurement department and your supply chain organization is aware of these requirements, and that they're putting controls in place to review all new suppliers very, very thoroughly. The other component is using the software that we have visited in other trade buzz things around mapping your supply chain, is using some of those tools that are available in the marketplace to validate those relationships and be able to find that information.
And again, you guys can help if, kind of bring this all together and put together the plan.
Absolutely. We definitely can work with you to, help with, especially with the screening and the mapping process. We have access to these great mapping solutions within our solutions, to help companies manage that better. Without doing so, the risk can be extreme. One, again, if we just even put the human rights side away, just from a corporate cost perspective, large food company recently, they had their goods, importing food products detained because one of the ingredients in their product was potentially subject to UFLPA. It represented 0.5% of the overall value of the good. So it was one very small component overall food armament that was detained for so long, and there happened to be problems with the storage. The food was completely destroyed in the interim. At the end of the day, there was no UFLPA concerns, even with that 0.5%. It was flagged for that, but the amount of time it took that importer to collect that documentation, address all that, in the interim, the food was spoiled. So huge expense to that organization, and that's just one story. There's plenty more. So again, this goes back to that proactivity, leveraging the systems, putting the process in place so you don't end up with those detentions that can be very costly.